Hey, welcome back to the channel. Got a little something on the bench for you here. I have an 04, so DJI 04 Pro race quad, and I mean legit race quad. This thing is wicked awesome. I got a phone call from Hypnos FPV, and he said, hey, I seen this video. And after watching that video, he's like, I want it. That thing looks really cool. I want to fly that. And I said, I tell you what, let's work out some details. And here it is. This thing is legit. I mean, it is a lot of fun to fly. Now, mind you, there's a little bias in how fun it is to fly because I don't own the 04 system and I don't own 6S, and that's what we got here. So obviously this has gotten my heart pounding. It's absolutely amazing. It's so much fun to fly. I had a really good time. Now, here's the thing. If you're wanting to build one of these, I'm going to go through all the details. I'm going to go through Betaflight. I'm going to go through BioHeli. I'm going to show you every part and piece that I can, all the way down to the nylon washer, so that you can build one just like this. So if that's something that interests you, or you just want to see it fly, stay tuned. I'm going to have all kinds of information, flight video, the maiden flight anyway. And yeah, all kinds of info in this video. So stay tuned. So I got all the parts and pieces on the bench, and I have decided not to put all the little details in this video of every single piece. So I'm going to make a build list on my website, Propsoff.com, under the community challenge tab. I'll get that put in there eventually. I got to get everything compiled, but it'll have screws, the washers, stuff that didn't come with the flight controller or the frame or whatever that I need to use in this build. So in this video, we'll just kind of look at the larger pieces. So let's take a look at that stuff. All right, so we've got the four arms and the base plate and everything finished. I had to put the strap in because it wouldn't fit otherwise. There's a little cutout in the carbon. I'll get you a little close up, but this has kind of like a thick end on it, so it wouldn't thread through real easy. So it does fit nicely. It slides. It's not being pinched or cut. So it should work out real well. I'll get some Uma grip on the bottom of that pad here, so we'll get that taken care of for the lipo. But you do have to secure your stack on the bottom plate before you put your arms on, because the arms actually cover up the screws for the stack. I'm not sure, looking at it, because the way it's designed, there's no real way to get in to the stack. So all four arms are now secured on, and I have my ESC and flight controller mounted, as you have to have it completely done before you put the arms on. I have these motor wires coming out. We're going to go ahead and get some race wire put in here, and then I'll wrap that with gaff tape. So we'll have some good chance of a prop strike here. It's not going to cut the wires and whatnot. So go ahead and get those soldered up, and then the ESC is completely finished. We have our pigtail and our capacitor, and this capacitor is soft mounted. So just kind of giving you a general look. I'll zoom in here and we'll kind of look at a little more detail before I get further along. Here is the 04 air unit. So I've made everything modular, so the entire air unit is part of the top plate. So this whole thing, just 4 screws, the whole thing will lift off. There's only one connector here to connect it to the flight controller. So all you have to do is plug this in, screw it down, or undo the 4 screws, turn it over, unplug it, and then this whole section will lift away. So actually you could probably make more of these and have just maybe 2 of these. In case you break an arm or something, you can swap them over, because the receiver will be mounted in the front here. So it looks like everything's kind of coming along. I just have to put the motors on and then give the ESC a test before I connect the flight controller. So let me just zoom in here real quick so you can kind of get an idea of what all I've done. Alright, so real quick, I have this piece that goes on the back So this will go right here underneath, and we'll get 2 good sized zip ties, and the zip ties will hold down the wires and the capacitor. I'll probably put a little bit of tape on the top of this, so some of that double-sided Gorilla adhesive. This stuff is absolutely amazing. This is 15-pound silicone poster adhesive. It can handle a lot of heat and it doesn't leave any residue. So I'll put a strip on there before I put that zip tie on, and that'll keep that from moving around for sure. So the capacitor and the pigtail will be secured with 2 number 4 zip ties. I have my motor wires coming around here. So I have a 20 gauge wire coming around here for the motors. That's the stock motor wire for the T-motor F40s. Let me get these out of your way. And then of course we just have our positive, our negative on the ESC. I just have the flight controller on here. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit here, refocus for you. So as you can see, we have plenty of space under the stack. There's no movement. If I smush down on this, there's really no movement to touch anything to the carbon. I have 2 nylon spacers on this side and 2 on the other side, so a total of 4 nylon spacers before it goes to the grommet. So there's still some anti-vibration happening, but it's very firm, and I don't suspect anything is going to touch in here. Let me see if I could turn that up. Move this. So there's plenty of space in here. Don't see any issues there. It would have to be a pretty violent crash to make anything touch. So it should be pretty good. And then of course we've got this squashed down, and the air unit will sit right above it with enough space. Shouldn't have any issues with any contact between that and the air unit. And then let me turn here so you can see the inside here. And get the motor wires out of your way. So you can see here we got plenty of space in between there. And then of course on the other side, plenty of space here. All right. So let me go ahead and refocus for you. So the next step is just to go ahead and put our race wire on and get our motors mounted, and we'll go ahead and test the ESC, make sure everything's good, and then we'll go ahead and get the flight controller and ESC connected. We'll make sure that we can spin up our motors in Betaflight, and then we'll go ahead and connect our receiver and get all that bound up, and then get our air unit plugged in last. I think I'll go ahead and test fly at line of sight without any of the air unit stuff, just the receiver, motors, of course, and ESC and flight controller. I'll go ahead and just give it like a maiden line of sight to make sure everything's good. And then we'll get the air unit section on there, and we'll take it to the field and give it a rip. So I'll be back after I solder everything up and show you kind of the inside before I put the air unit on. I ended up using race wire because the used motors for this build, the wires were too short, but the stock motors should have long enough wires for this frame. So just FYI. And then I got everything buttoned up, and then the modular design. So let's go ahead and look at Betaflight. All right, we're all plugged into the USB. Got a lot of work to do in Betaflight, so let's jump over there and get that done. All right, so we'll go ahead and connect the quad up. We're going to go ahead and flash firmware just to get the firmware up to date. And we're going to go ahead and flash that. I was going to fast forward this, but as you know, I like to show how long it takes. So that way if it, I don't know, takes a really long time or a really short time, then you'll kind of know something ain't right. Yeah, this build has been quite interesting. Turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the choices for components and stuff. All right, so go ahead and connect. Apply custom default should pop up here. Okay. Might have changed that. Go to setup here. Let's calibrate. I have it level on the bench. And I have it straight to the computer. So tip forward, backwards. So we got some things to do in here. Accelerometer, let's go to default first. Since we know it ain't right, I'm going to turn this on. Enable expert mode. Z it up, forward, back, right, left. Moves around good. All right. So let's go to, let's see, arming flags. I haven't set up the receiver yet. So MSP and receiver is the only thing popping up so far. So receiver, I soldered to UART1. In the manual here, I soldered to R1 and T1 for the receiver. So that is all done. Nice manual. They got quite a bit of information in here. And then I soldered to, or I didn't solder, but the air unit is going to go on UART3. So we'll go ahead and enable MSP DisplayPort for that. Looks good. Let's go ahead and get our motors set up. So I'll get a LiPo plugged in and we'll make sure our motor direction's correct. All right, so I've already previously, I made sure that this didn't have any continuity issues. So I've already plugged it in. So we got our LiPo plugged in. Let's jump back over to Betaflight. And let's spin up the motors. Yes, I have my props removed. All right, motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, motor 4. Okay, so all the motors are checking out here. Turn this back off. Let's reorder, make sure they're working. All right, so that's going to be this one. All right, so that's going to be motor 2. And that's going to be motor 3. And that's going to be motor 4. Okay, save that. And now we'll go ahead and make sure our motor direction's correct. So we're making sure this is ticked, and then we're making sure that our motor direction is correct. So we want to follow those arrows. I like to do individual. All right, so we got motor 1. So I just hold down on number 1 there. We're spinning the wrong way. So go in here and we'll click on reverse it. Now we'll jump back over and all right. We're going props out with this. All right, motor 2. Motor 2 is going the wrong way. Reverse it. All right. Motor 3. It's going the wrong way, so we'll reverse it. Motor 4. It's going the wrong way, so we'll reverse it. All right. So that is it for those. We'll go ahead and make sure all the motors are running the correct direction. All right, all good there. And now I'm going to test each motor. I just want to listen for vibrations or something that I don't like the sound of. So I need a piece of soft foam for that. I want to get this thing off of the bench. Soft piece of foam here. We're just going to listen for any weird sounds. I never really go above 50%. Because without a load on the motor, you can damage it. All right, sounds good there. Sounds good there. Try that again. All right, sounds good. Everything feels good. I don't feel any weird vibrations or anything that would cause me to worry. So everything seems to be good there. I'll go ahead and jump over here, and all of this is correct. All of this looks good. I need to check my motors to make sure they're 14, but I'm pretty sure they are. I'll go ahead and disconnect the LiPo. And now I need to go to the receiver and make sure that everything works in there. I do have to plug in a LiPo for the receiver to be powered. The receiver does not power off of USB. So I'll have to connect a LiPo when I'm ready to do the receiver. I'm going to jump over to ELRS configurator. So I'll go ahead and disconnect here and close out Betaflight, and then I'm going to go into the configurator for ELRS. I have a video on that, so if you're interested in knowing how all that works, you can jump over there and check that video out. All right, so got all of the stuff done. Update the receiver here. Go ahead and turn on our radio and jump back into Betaflight and make sure everything works. So I have to plug in the quad. Yeah, the receiver needs the LiPo plugged in. I'm going to plug in the Betaflight here. Jump over here to Betaflight. All right, connect up receiver. And we'll just go to bind. All right. And make sure our channel map is correct. Old school channel map. All right, so all the way up, all the way down. Got some switches in here. All right. Looks like everything's functioning correctly. I can fly the model around, you know. So, all good. Save that, go over to modes, make sure we have all our ranges. I am going to put air mode on a switch. So to do that, you have to go into configurator and disable it in the configurator so that this will come up. But I always have air mode on a switch. If we're going to crash, pre-arm. All this other stuff can be set up later. I just want to get it in the air, fly it, make sure everything sounds good. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get our arming in the high mode. All right, angle. So that's going to be that one. And then air mode is going to be on a switch. It's on a momentary button. I also have telemetry for the voltage because I like to fly line of sight a lot, so I want to make sure that I can hear my battery voltage when I have my goggles on. Flip over and crash, so that's enabled, and that's disabled. Pre-arm is on the same momentary as air mode. Okay. So when I hold in on the momentary switch, it goes high to enable it, and then when I let go of it, air mode comes on. So let me save this real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so air mode is always on. So when I hold in the pre-arm comes on. I let go of pre-arm, air mode comes on. Let me see here. I normally run motor stop, but I know he doesn't, and this ain't my quad, so we'll leave it off for now. Air mode, I'll have to tell him about. So that's it. Let's go ahead and arm it. Yep. Angle, horizon, acro. Yep. Flip over and crash. Air mode off. Pre-arm on. All right. We're golden. Let's go ahead and throw some props on this dude. Save that. Let me make sure I got everything in here done. Okay. Yeah, see, you have to disable that so it'll pop up in your modes tab. Battery. Let's see, 23. Fail safe. We're just going to do a real quick fail safe test when we hover it. Want to do a little pre-flight inspection. I think everything in here is set for now. Yeah, I think we're good to go to give this a hover and test our fail safe. All right, so I'm going to disconnect here, disconnect here. We're done with Betaflight for now. Everything is completely stock, really. There's no modifications or changes done so far. Now, because I made this modular, we're going to go ahead and put this together real quick. So the cool thing about it is you just have the one cable that you just connect to the flight controller. See if I get my fingers in there and film it. So yeah, so pretty cool. You just have the one connection here, and then everything, the back TPU that's holding our wires and our capacitor, just sit on there, and then that dude comes around. Pretty cool design. I'm liking it. Yeah, that's all you got to do is just 4 screws underneath here, and the whole top comes off. Pretty handy. So I'm gonna throw these 4 screws in real quick. Got those in there, so that ain't going anywhere. This dude's pretty stout. Now I'm gonna throw a bag of MCKs on here. Just happen to have some of these laying on the floor next to me, so I'm just gonna throw them on here. Give it a rip. So I'll get these dudes on real quick. All right, I'll get these tightened down real quick. So let's jump over here and check out a little bit of a hover before we take it outside. All right, we got her plugged in there on the floor. And the first thing I want to do is a pre-flight. All right, so we're just gonna
receiver still connected.
Just gonna disconnect the radio. Quad just shut off, so our fail-safe worked out good.
Welcome to HTX. Weather warning.
Alright, so we're back up. We're bound back up. Alright. Moment of truth. Think it'll go to the ceiling? Alright, so she's a little floaty. I'm gonna turn the idle down just a little bit before I take it out in the field. I'm excited. I can't wait. Let's go to the field right now. Club. Gonna get out here and rip a few packs. Give it a little maiden flight. I got all my gear on the table, so I'll get all this on and then get this dude out in the field. Just want to let you know though, it was icy on the ground earlier and it's really windy, so this should be interesting. So let's jump into goggles and give it a rip. Alright, I'm gonna have to apologize. I hope that this microphone's not getting all this wind, but it's really windy. So here it is. Gonna give this dude a little rip about. Alright, I'm gonna put this on the ground. So I don't have the DJI 04 system, so this will be my first real rip with 6S and 04 unit. So we're just gonna, this first pack is just gonna kind of be a chilled pack. Ooh, that 45-degree angle is, wow, this is unbelievable. I mean, you have got to be kidding me right now. I'm never going to be able to fly my analog here again. Ooh. Man. Yeah, this does have a 45-degree angle on it. So it's wanting to move quick. I don't have any OSD set up. I'm going to have to put some Betaflight information so I can see my RX and my battery voltage.
3.9.
So I have battery voltage on my radio because I like to fly line of sight. You know, unfortunately, tuning's going to be kind of impossible because it's like, I don't know, 20 mile an hour wind with like 45 gust. Ooh. Yeah, she's smooth. I mean, I can feel that wind jerking me around, but wow, this is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look at the siding. Look at I mean, you can see all the details of the shed. Just crazy. Just crazy. Yeah, the stock tune and the stock rates are pretty good. Not bad. I mean, racing, I'd speed them up just a little bit, but not bad at all. Not really hearing any. Not hearing any like nasty oscillations.
0.5 volts.
See what my battery says here.
0.6.
Yeah.
Volts.
Oh my goodness! I tell you what. I wish it wasn't so windy. It is just absolutely horrendous wind blowing right now. Ah. All right. Thankfully nobody's here, so I'm able to kind of use the whole field. Normally, if you go to my website, Propsoff.com, I have a listing for this club if you're south of Columbus. Man, look at that. Look how clear that is. That is crazy. I'm gonna end up wrecking just cause. Whoo, man, is that something. That is, I wear glasses too, so I know if I had like diopters, in here for my stigmatism, it would just be amazing. There goes my lipo bag. There goes my sunglasses and my radio bag. All right, let me grab that stuff and give this another rip. All right, so I was going to do a review right away after I got back from the flight field and kind of wrap up this video. But I tell you what, I've spent quite a bit of time tuning on it. I had to wait for another day for the weather because I tell you what, it was just ridiculously windy out there. But one thing that I did notice on the stock Betaflight and stock ESC settings, there was some motor noise I didn't quite like. There was just some electrical noise, and I know that I just felt a little desync happening. It wasn't in the receiver. It definitely had something to do with the motor. So I went and got a different tune for it. I got different ESC settings for it. I'll show you that here in a minute. But as you know from earlier in the video, I went through just some basic stock stuff to get it in the air so that I could test it out. So after tuning on it and really kind of messing around with it, it's really flying really well. No noise from the motors. They're nice and cool, full send throttle, back and forth, no issues at all. I don't have a lot of experience with the Foxeer Slim ESC, so that's the 20x20 mount Foxeer Slim 60 amp. I don't have a lot of experience with that. This is the first build that I've had with it in there. But the Hobby Wing flight controller, I have that flight controller in my 7-inch. Just to give you an idea why I chose to go with that flight controller is because on that flight controller right here, there's a plug for the 04 unit. It just makes it so convenient and easy. And then I trust that flight controller because I've put my 7-inch through some stuff and had no issues. So I just wanted to let you know I do like the flight controller. The ESC, we're going to have to see how it races before I thumbs up that ESC. I know there's a lot of people out there that do race that ESC. Of course, the 04 video system, the Pro, and I wasn't actually flying in the race setting, so that's 15 millisecond latency. I wasn't flying that. It's still set on the most quality video. These motors, I've had these motors on other builds, so I'm used to these motors. These are great motors. The F40 T motors, great motors. These are 1950 kV motors for 6S because we're running a 6S 1300. And the receiver is the Radiomaster RP2 receiver. Fits in there really nice. I'm actually surprised about the range on that. The range on that is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It is the antenna itself is inside the carbon frame, so you could see it's just right down in there. So you have motor wires, you have the ESC to the flight controller wires, the 04 camera, everything around that, and I was still getting really good range. So no issues there. The frame, I tell you what, I really like the frame. Everything went together really well. Everything fit inside really well. Can't say enough about the frame, the way it's designed. I like that you can just take these 4 screws out and the whole entire upper canopy comes off, so that's all separate. And then there's 3 screws here. You can remove both arms, or just 2 of these screws so that you can remove one arm. So definitely Evan did a great job on these prints. I'm going to talk to Evan Turner of 533 about getting a different canopy. So this camera angle is quite steep. So if you're new to racing or you've never raced a 5-inch quad, this is going to be a challenge for you because 45-degree angles, that's no joke. I'm comfortable flying it because my quads are 50-degree camera angle on my other race quads. The weight, let me just show you a picture of my open racer. And then I'll show you a picture of this one here with the without the battery. And then the weight of just the battery. So very similar in weight that I'm running now. However, it's 6S. So the KV and propeller RPM is higher than what I'm used to. So as far as the build, I think I've got everything pictured, videoed for you, so you can kind of build that yourself. And then I'm thinking about putting on my website. So if you go to Propsoff.com and you go to the community challenge page, I'm going to have this build in the community challenge page. I'm not going to have the Betaflight settings and stuff because we're going to go through BioHeli and Betaflight here real quick. So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these props because I will be attaching a lipo to this. I say it every time. You got to take your props off when you hook up your lipo. So I'm going to go ahead and take those off because we're going to connect the lipo for BioHeli 32 so that I can show you some settings in there as well. We're going to be using the Sugar K Betaflight preset, and I'm going to go through all that as well. So let's go ahead and jump over to Betaflight, and we'll just kind of go down through the list. All right, over here in Betaflight, we're going to go ahead and connect. We'll go to ports tab first, just so you can see RX. I soldered to UART1, and then UART3 is the connector on that flight controller. So once you put VTX MSP, this will automatically give you your HD for your OSD. So that's done. Configuration, not a whole lot to talk about in here. It's default completely because we ran the arrow in the correct direction, right side up. And then in here we have 8 and 4K, accelerometer only. I have his pilot name in the description here, 180 degrees, air mode on a switch. He may change that, I'm not sure. So those are the settings and configuration. Battery, I just put in the capacity. Fail safe, we got the drop. And then presets, I'm going to go through this a little bit more detail. Receiver, pretty basic stuff. Make sure this telemetry is on. Frustrating a lot of people out there. Make sure your channel map is correct. That's another thing that frustrates a lot of people. Modes, so these are the modes that I use. I do have air mode on a momentary. So like I said, you have to turn it off in here to get it to activate in here. Okay, if you don't do that, then you can't find it. Flip over and crash, pre-arm, of course. Motors tab, I have the props out configuration. This is the best configuration. I don't care what anyone says. I'll argue to the death that props out is the best for racing, because if you hit a gate, a lot of times your propellers will pop you off. Instead of sucking the gate into your camera, it actually sometimes bumps you off the gate. So it does a great job in defending your camera against gates. Went through all this already. D-Shot 600, bidirectional D-Shot. For that preset I'm about to show you, you have to have bidirectional D-Shot enabled. You have to have RPM filtering on your ESC to make that preset work. So let's go ahead and check out this preset. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here to Karate Race 6S 5-inch. Okay, this is Sugar K's preset. This is the one that I went with because if you go here to show CLI, you can actually read what they've done. And out of all the ones that I read, I like this one the most. It seemed to be the most fitting, I guess. For the motor noise that I was having, I needed to correct that. And some of these things looked like they were going to do that. So that's the one I chose. So in your drop-down menu, we have some choices. So D-Shot 600, and then dynamic idle for 2000 kV. So this is a little bit, you remember earlier in the video I said the thing was kind of floaty. I'm going to change my motor idle. This takes care of it for you. So I went back to the stock motor idle and enable this. So this will take care of that floatiness that I was having. You don't want your quad to be floaty when you're trying to drop down into a gate. So that's why I chose that. And then here we're going to go with ELS 500. Of course, you can go to 1000 if you want. My radio system only goes to 500. I don't have 1000 hertz on mine. Sugar K's rates. I'm not sure what that is, but the throttle curve for 6S. I went with this because when I tested it without it, then it had a more knee-jerk reaction, if you will. So like if you made a mistake and you were throwing your throttle around, the quad was extremely responsive to that. This just kind of made it a lot smoother, and I think it's going to be a lot nicer with that on. So kind of smooths things out, doesn't make it so, I don't know, knee-jerk reaction, if you will. Okay, and then in here we have some really good information. You want to read all this stuff in here. Make sure that everything in here coincides with what you're doing. Now, obviously, if you're just doing a carbon copy build off of my build, then you know this all applies, right? So ADC filter off on your radio, radio link, all this information. This is something I'm going to go through with you real quick because I don't think a lot of people do anything with their ESC. So this is PWM frequency to 48K locked. So I'm going to explain that real quick, and then timing to 23 degrees. So I'm going to show you that too. So once you're all done choosing what I did in here, you're going to click pick, and then you're going to go down and save and reboot, and that will apply it. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to do ELRS preset. So this is the 500 radio link ELRS preset. Make sure that you're on the right firmware. Read all this, and then you're going to go in and pick race. This is important because this is going to change something. Actually, let me just show you real quick. What does that change when you click on that? It changes this right here. So jitter reduction and smoothness. This is why your ADC filter in your radio is turned off, because Betaflight's doing it, and you don't want that to be a redundant thing. But when you're racing, these numbers, this number's high, this number's low, and then as you change that preset to like cinema or freestyle or anything, this number will go down and this number will go up. So that's part of the things that the preset's changing. Oops. So ELRS right here. So anyway, click race, and then ultra cinema. That would be even more drastic, right? Anyway, serial RX, because we're using the Radio Master RP2, so that is a serial RX, single cell, and then I don't worry about that. Now, as I said earlier in the video, I do have a tutorial on ELRS, so I don't want to go through all that in this video. So you're going to pick that, and then you're going to save and reboot, and it will apply it. So those are the two presets that we're going to use. And then in OSD, in here you want to make sure this is HD. So when you go in your ports tab and you enable this, okay, you need to be on a certain version of Betaflight to get this to come up. If your Betaflight version is too old, this ain't in there. So make sure that you're updating to a proper date and time so that you can have this MSP DisplayPort option in here, okay? And then once you do that, your OSD will enable this function here of HD. And then all I did is I put Hypnos FPV in here in the bottom, and I have some statistical data in here. And then also I have the post-flight statistics data, all that. And then any warnings that I may have that will come up right here. So that's kind of all of that in a nutshell. We don't worry about any of this. And that's about it. Now, I did flash this to 452 Betaflight version. So this is the Hobby Wing X Rotor F7 CONV. So that's the target. So everything is up to date and everything is working perfectly. So let's go ahead and grab Heli 32 ESC configurator and show you the stuff in there. Alright, so we have everything ready to go. I have my propellers removed, and then I have a little trusty fan over here. So this little fan will keep everything cool while we're working on it. Because when you hook up a LiPo, then it's going to energize your O4 unit, your receiver, and you kind of don't want those things to overheat. So I got that trusty little fan. So let's go ahead and jump over to Heli, and we'll get that all set up. Alright, we'll go ahead and connect our USB to the computer, and everything should pop up here. I have my COM port, baud rate, connect. So the ESC is being read connected, and then now we're going to read the setup. So now everything is in here. So the PWM frequency, so Sugar K, the developer at Betaflight, it says that you want to have your PWM frequency locked. So that by defining locked, that means that there's no variable movement on the PWM frequency. So if you have both the low and the high values the same, then it's locked at 48K. And then motor timing is at 28 degrees. So all of those things are set up now. And you can see all the other settings that I have in here. Obviously, BLHeli32 is no longer. So if you don't have access to downloading the configurator, you can't update it. There's no updating ESCs. There's no updating the configurator. It's gone. I have the configurator on my desktop, so I could still talk to a 32-bit ESC. So if that's something that's not going to work out for you, unfortunately, you may be looking at a different ESC than what I used. But you could still download this and use it. There's just no updating or improvements going to be made. So that's pretty much it in the BLHeli32 configurator to make sure that these are done as Sugar K mentioned in the preset. Okay, so we'll disconnect here and we'll jump back over to the bench. All right, so back over here. Everything checked out really good. This thing's super fun to fly. I know that the video seems like a long video as I'm anticipating editing this thing, but man, I wanted to have like everything in there, so that if you want to build one of these or you want to get your hands on one of these, just like the one I built, because this is probably one of the funnest things I've ever flown. It's super fast. I'd like to have one for myself someday, but it's really cool. I think I've done the best I can to give you all the information I can so that you can have one too. I'm going to put it on my website under the communities tab so that because things are so temporary, things go out of date and all that. It's easy for me to modify it there rather than messing with the YouTube description. I think it'd be more comprehensive too. So I'll try to get that built up for you. If you have any questions though about this build or about stuff on the website, I am going to use affiliate links. There's probably going to be at least one, I know. But I appreciate any support. You use that affiliate link, it helps me out. It's a very small fraction that helps me out though. You know what else helps me out is my Patreons. So if you go to the description of my videos, I have a little list of Patreons and channel members. If you would subscribe to their channel, show them a little support since they're helping me out so that I can bring this to you. So if you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully this video helped you out. And if it did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. It all works. Enjoy the breeze.